Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain, and it sounds almost unbelievable. What if one of the most celebrated royal births wasn't what we were told? For years, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have painted the story of Archie's birth as one of privacy, secrecy, and defiance against the palace. People have speculated that her children are fake, even going so far as to say they're AI, but now voices are rising, loud, determined, and armed with receipts. Critics call it a dreadful, completely wrong thing to do, and suggest that something far darker may have been happening behind those hospital doors. This scandal comes as no surprise to some. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years, and at the center of it all is Candace Owens, who became instantly enraged after watching a short clip that annoyed her. She's been calling out what she believes are glaring contradictions in Meghan's pregnancy story, contradictions so wild they've left medical professionals and royal insiders shaking their heads. This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out. From Harry's own memoir to hospital insider leaks, the official timeline doesn't just feel unusual, it feels almost impossible. There's talk of media manipulation, conflicting explanations, and eyebrow-raising details. 2 epidurals, a rapid hospital discharge, and no immediate press notification. Buckingham Palace is now being pressured to remove Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet from the UK's royal line of succession until Meghan provides absolute proof that she gave birth to both babies herself. When you place these puzzle pieces together, the picture isn't one of a fairy tale royal birth. It's a web of contradictions growing harder to ignore. And here's the kicker. If even part of this narrative doesn't hold up under scrutiny, it raises a chilling question. What exactly was the royal family hiding? And why? Because if the inconsistencies are real, then the public hasn't just been misled. The trust between Meghan, Harry, and the millions who celebrated Archie's arrival may have been shattered from day one. Why lie? The whole thing feels bizarre. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, the evidence must be broken down piece by piece, because what comes next may change how you see this royal story forever. The timeline in Harry's own memoir might expose more than the couple ever intended. In his best-selling book, Harry recalls Meghan giving birth to Archie at the luxurious Portland hospital, where she supposedly endured not 1 but 2 epidurals before leaving the hospital with their newborn in just a matter of hours. On the surface, it reads like a dramatic and glamorous account, meant to showcase resilience and control, but when doctors, nurses, and experienced mothers began analyzing this version of events, the questions came flooding in. First, the idea of having 2 epidurals in the middle of labor raised red flags. An epidural isn't a painkiller you pop in and out. It involves inserting a catheter near the spinal cord, and switching it out mid-labor is extremely rare and risky. Why would you do that when it's not necessary? Critics argue that simply producing a DNA sample or proof of delivery could silence everyone. But instead, Meghan's story seems more like a performance. Second, the recovery timeline Harry describes is almost medically impossible. Most new mothers, especially those who undergo any complications or even standard pain management, are monitored for at least a full day before being discharged. Yet Harry claims Meghan was at home, settled, and resting with Archie within 2 hours. And here's where it gets even stranger. Portland Hospital is in central London, while their home at Frogmore Cottage is a lengthy drive away. Between discharge paperwork, newborn checks, pain recovery, and the commute, the math just doesn't add up. Even under the best-case scenario, the timeline feels rushed, glossed over, and suspiciously convenient. Which begs the question, why tell a story that medical professionals say doesn't line up with reality? And if the timeline is inaccurate, what else in their carefully curated narrative might also be misleading? As odd as this account already seems, the contradictions deepen when examining how the palace itself handled Archie's birth. Traditionally, when a royal baby is born, there's a strict and symbolic protocol. The Queen is informed first, an official announcement is prepared, and the press is notified almost immediately to share the news with the public. But when Archie arrived, those rules seemed to vanish. Meghan herself gave not 1, not 2, but 3 different explanations for why the press wasn't alerted in the usual way. In one version, she suggested it was to protect her privacy. In another, she claimed it was due to complications during the birth. And in yet another account, the story shifted again. If the truth was simple, why so many different versions? Even royal reporters, who are normally sympathetic to the palace, admitted confusion over the timeline. Some journalists were told Archie had already been born hours before the announcement, while others received conflicting messages that the Duchess was in labor when in fact she wasn't. This kind of chaos doesn't just break protocol. It undermines the credibility of the institution itself. Palace protection officers and staff follow rules to the letter, and deviations like this don't happen by accident. The secrecy and contradictions didn't just fuel curiosity, they sparked suspicion. And then there's the hospital itself. Was this confusion a deliberate attempt to hide the real circumstances of Archie's birth? When Harry described Meghan receiving 2 epidurals during labor, medical professionals immediately raised an eyebrow. For those unfamiliar, an epidural isn't a quick injection. It's a delicate procedure where a catheter is carefully placed near the spinal cord to deliver continuous pain relief. Once inserted, it stays in place, allowing adjustments in dosage without needing to remove and repeat the process. That's why experts insist the claim of having 2 epidurals makes little sense. Switching catheters mid-labor is rare, risky, and would only be attempted under unusual circumstances. Even then, such a procedure would extend recovery time and require meticulous monitoring afterward. Yet Harry's account suggests this was a routine event, glossed over almost as if it were nothing. Critics argue this detail doesn't reflect medical reality, but instead reads like a dramatized retelling for effect, or worse, a misrepresentation. If Meghan truly underwent an additional invasive procedure, her reported rapid recovery and discharge from Portland Hospital becomes even more implausible. The combination of multiple epidurals and a same-day departure contradicts standard medical protocols, which emphasize observation to prevent complications like nerve injury, low blood pressure, or infection. To put it bluntly, the story doesn't align with how childbirth medicine actually works. Which leads to an unsettling question. Was this a simple misunderstanding of medical terminology, or was the narrative intentionally shaped to appear extraordinary? Every small inconsistency seems to open the door to something much bigger. Childbirth isn't something you simply walk away from in a matter of hours, no matter how privileged the circumstances. Standard medical practice requires new mothers to be observed for at least 24 hours after delivery.